Hello and thanks for joining us for another edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Mitchell Ringos. A proposed $13 million settlement has been reached in a class action lawsuit involving hundreds of cases of historic sexual abuse committed by notorious former Anglican minister and scout leader Ralph Rowe. The class action was filed in 2017 against Rowe, Scouts Canada, and the Anglican Synod of the Diocese of Keewatin for abuse committed by Rowe between 1975 and 1985. Class action members had been seeking $110 million. The agreement still needs to be approved by the court at a hearing in October. The full details can be found on nwonewswatch.com. 2 people are dead following 2 separate collisions on area highways earlier this week. The first happened on Monday on Highway 17 near Marathon, involving a passenger vehicle and a transport. The driver of the passenger vehicle was killed in the crash. OPP continued to investigate the incident. The second fatal crash happened Tuesday on Highway 527 near Gull Bay between a passenger vehicle and a commercial vehicle. The driver of the passenger vehicle also died in that collision. Both crashes resulted in lengthy highway closures. It's the latest blow to the healthcare system in northwestern Ontario, as Red Lake has recently been forced to part ways with one of its doctors after the province slashed funding offered through the Rural and Northern Physician Group agreement. That's left the hospital there with just 6 doctors and locals with reduced access to care. Carl Langdon has that story.
A reduction in the number of family physicians in Red Lake has dramatically reduced health access in the community. It's the result of funding decreases by the Ministry of Health, and the mayor says he's concerned for his residents.
Urgent care will be closing on Saturdays, so there's no more access to urgent care. Everything is a domino effect here. So if they close our ER, what happens then? Inpatients here at our hospital have to be transferred to other hospitals. So there's going to be a domino effect in the region.
The hospital, like so many others, was already struggling to find enough staff. CEO Sumit Kumar notes patients from the remote community who are forced to seek care elsewhere need to travel a long way on dangerous roads.
For us, it's about 230 kilometers that they would have to travel, but we're talking almost for 2.5 hours in an ambulance.
Efforts were made last week to avoid staffing shortages in the emergency department.
We did not have physicians coverage at all, and we had to fly in a physician from Durham region to work for us to keep the doors open here. So it was 1 full week of shutdown that would have happened had we not got a physician from Durham region to come and work for us.
And medical emergencies, like this one you can hear during our interview,
I've got emergency,
can occur at any time. The Ministry of Health calls the funding decision right sizing, noting it's allocating resources where they're needed most. But Moda wonders if Red Lake's non-permanent residents were considered when that decision was made.
Our population in Red Lake here is approximately 4,200 people. On any given day, we have probably another 600 to 800 people in the community that work in the mines that are fly in, fly out, or are here on mining business.
And with more mining development planned in the region, there's a potential for the situation to get much worse before it gets better. Carl Langdon, TBT News.
Meanwhile, the Ontario College of Family Physicians is calling for immediate support for family doctors across Northern Ontario. The organization says they're the ones shouldering much of the burden of keeping emergency rooms open. The college adds family doctors in the north are working unreasonable ER shifts to prevent closures, putting strain on their well-being and exacerbating wait times for primary care. Sioux Lookout doctor Mary England says the issue has affected her own family practice.
And it's very hard to say no when you know that the ultimatum is a closed emergency room, and the effect that that has on people that you know well. What it means is less clinic time, and less clinic time means patients are waiting for care. And when patients are waiting for care, their conditions can progress and they can get more acute illnesses and have to present to acute care. So it's obviously a vicious cycle.
The college is calling for the government to enhance locum programs for the north, urgently implement and fund recruitment and retention programs, and immediately provide peer support for family doctors. A verdict came down on Friday in the coroner's inquest into the 2016 death of Daniel Lagarde at the hands of the OPP in Nipigon. The jury determined Lagarde died by homicide due to a gunshot wound to the abdomen. A Finding of homicide is not criminal in the context of a coroner's inquest. The officers involved were previously found to have acted lawfully in the course of their duties. Lagarde died on the night of November 26, 2016, after police were called to a residence over a report of an unwanted person. The jury also handed down 18 recommendations calling for more police training, particularly relating to de-escalation, intimate partner violence, and Indigenous awareness. Other recommendations were directed to the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, the Ministry of the Solicitor General, and the Office of the Chief Coroner itself. Full details can be found on tvnewswatch.com. The Office of the Independent Police Review Director will not be investigating a complaint that was filed against the OPP officer involved in a video that sparked outrage online last month. It appears to show the officer using a taser against a woman in Sioux Lookout, and a warning: some viewers may find the footage disturbing. The video appears to show a kneeling woman being punched by an officer before fighting back. The officer then appears to step back and stun the woman twice with a taser. Sioux Lookout OPP have defended the officer's conduct and charged the 23-year-old woman from Casablanca Lake First Nation with assault with intent to resist arrest. Rachel Mamakwa, who says that woman in the video is her niece, filed the complaint. She says she's angry with the OIPRD's response.
There was an email from OIPRD, and they said that they weren't going to do anything. It was really upsetting and discouraging. And I don't know, just felt awful, and I didn't think it was right.
In the email, the OIPRD says it won't investigate due to the outstanding charges against the niece. Quote, "It is not in the public interest to proceed with a misconduct investigation when it could interfere with and or be delayed by a related parallel proceeding." Mamakwa says she's contacted a lawyer and is looking into other ways to advocate for her niece, including a possible human rights case. A man convicted of manslaughter who was also involved in a hostage-taking at the Kenora District Jail has been deemed a dangerous offender and will remain in custody. The ruling came this week during a sentencing hearing for 32-year-old Patrick Kanate of Wegamo First Nation. Kanate pleaded guilty to 1 count of hostage-taking, 3 counts of assaulting a peace officer with a weapon, disarming a peace officer, and uttering threats. He and 8 other inmates at the Kenora Jail took a guard hostage in September of 2018. A person can be designated a dangerous offender if it's found they display repetitive violent behavior and a lack of remorse. Kanate has been convicted for violent behavior more than 10 times, including for manslaughter in the 2010 death of his 25-year-old cousin, Keegan Williams. Full details can be found on tvnewswatch.com. Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Haidu commits to investing funding avenues for $45 million expansion of Wikudong Lodge. Well, that story after the break. Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Haidu says she'll do what she can to find federal funding for a proposed $45 million expansion at Weekudong Lodge in Thunder Bay. Haidu met with Weekudong officials Tuesday morning. The lodge supports Indigenous people from remote communities who need to access health care in the city, but a lack of space at the facility forces the organization to book more than 100 hotel rooms a night for its clients. The expansion would bring Weekudong's capacity to about 380, and Haidu says that as Minister of Indigenous Services, her portfolio doesn't have funding for this type of project, but there may be other ways the feds can provide support.
I do think there's a path forward to try to secure funds through other federal streams of funding, like the green infrastructure funding, as I mentioned, the Urban, Rural and Northern Indigenous Housing Fund that's new. There may be other supports through the federal government.
Showed her passion for the work that we do. She showed what appeared to be genuine care and concern for our clients, and that's everything we were hoping to see. So we're very grateful she was here. We're honored.
The organization is asking for 35% of the $45 million to begin construction. Haidu committed to forming a team through Indigenous Services Canada to look into possible funding avenues for Weekudong's expansion. The world's first deep geological repository for high-level nuclear waste is expected to open in Finland next year, and municipal leaders from this region will soon get the chance to scope it out, as a similar installation is being considered outside Ignace. A delegation from the area will get to visit in the fall. Lee Noonan has more.
With a nuclear waste facility off the west coast of Finland nearing completion, Canada's Nuclear Waste Management Organization is setting up site visits for the officials who will soon have to decide whether to play host to a similar facility in Canada.
It's one thing to read the specs and, understand, what 500 meters down, it sounds deep, but, to actually take that trip and realize that's 20 minutes to get down 500 meters. It just gives you the sense of the scale.
Representatives from Wabigoon Lake First Nation and from the South Bruce area, the other location under consideration in Canada, already visited the Finnish facility in June and July. Now a trip is being planned for officials from Ignace and surrounding municipalities this November.
I just hope they come away with a very strong understanding of the safety case. Another thing that they can do when they're there is talk to the mayor of that town, because they went through the same site selection process and they had to make that tough decision as to whether they want to host a deep geological repository.
According to Ponca, the Finnish site is very similar to what's being proposed for the Ignace area, but Finland uses a different type of nuclear fuel and different canisters. Its site uses a ramp system rather than a shaft system, and it's significantly smaller and closer to the country's 2 nuclear power plants.
We do have a lot more nuclear waste here, more generators. And you're right, the closest facility they have there is only a few kilometers away from the Deep Geological Repository, and their second nuclear power plant is, I believe, between 400 and 500 kilometers away. So they still need to have confidence in the safe and secure shipping of used nuclear fuel, even though their distance and amount of material isn't as large as ours.
Ponca says progress on the facility in Finland is about 20 years ahead of the timeline for Canada. The Finnish facility will be the first of its kind in the world. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Another provincial Liberal leadership hopeful is touring northwestern Ontario in an effort to convince voters that he's the right choice to help rebuild the party. In addition to stops in Kenora, Dryden and Nipigon, Kingston area MPP Ted Hsu also met with party supporters in Thunder Bay on Thursday evening. He believes his track record of winning, even in elections in which the party doesn't perform well, is what sets him apart from the other candidates. Hsu insists he's the right choice to lead the Ontario Liberals and ultimately the province as its next premier.
We have so many problems with cost of living, housing, healthcare capacity, mental health and addictions, and climate change as well. I want to do something about that. I've also got a lot of experience outside of politics. So I've worked in science, I've worked in business, I've worked in sustainable energy, but I also have a lot of political experience, and that's the last thing. I can win when the Liberal Party's doing really badly. In 2011, I won a federal seat in the House of Commons, worst election disaster ever for the federal Liberals. And last year, I won a seat again in the provincial election when the provincial Liberals were doing very badly, so I can help the party win.
The Liberals currently hold just 9 seats at Queen's Park. Also vying for the party's top job are Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie, Nathaniel Erskine Smith, Yasnir Jack Nakvi, and Adil Samji. Lakehead University is reigniting a decades-long relationship with natural resources scientists in Ghana to renew research and training opportunities for LU students. The school has welcomed a delegation here to learn more about forestry, mining, and agriculture. Jessica Clement has more on the partnership.
Following the pandemic, Lakehead professors, researchers, and students are once again sharing forestry, mining, and agricultural knowledge with partners in Ghana. The goal is to help create a sustainable resource management system in that country.
The idea is to have training, so bringing students back and forth between our schools at the undergrad level and also for graduate students, and then also have exchanges of professors and researchers to come and stay for terms here and terms there.
Over this week, LU is hosting 6 Ghanaian delegates representing 4 universities, the Forestry Commission of Ghana, and the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana to rekindle joint research and collaboration. The delegates are learning about the different technologies and knowledge Lakehead has developed and how they can be utilized in Ghana.
It's sort of our first trip that they've come to Canada and to Lakehead. And so they came in on the weekend and we've been having meetings. So I've been bringing in speakers from different groups across campus that will be relevant to the work we're going to do in Ghana, showing them facilities we have here, our research facilities, as well as other facilities in Thunder Bay.
Senior research scientist Dr. Emmanuel Banule says sharing knowledge through collaboration is an important part of creating a better future.
Lakehead has a lot of technologies which we may not have. So we want to also look at possibilities of adopting your technologies and apply it in managing our forests. It's also an opportunity for Lakehead also to learn from Ghana. So that makes it very important. The world is becoming small, and it's important that we exchange knowledge and technology to create a better world for the future.
The delegates will leave on Saturday. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Some Facebook users can no longer access news stories posted online by us here at Dougal Media. That includes TBT News videos and articles from our websites, TB Newswatch, NWO Newswatch, and SN Newswatch. That's because Facebook has begun blocking news content in Canada in response to the government's Bill C-18, also known as the Online News Act. The legislation is intended to force tech companies like Facebook parent company Meta to compensate Canadian media outlets for sharing their online news content. You can stay connected to all of our local news content by visiting our websites directly or signing up for our newsletters. We'll be right back with our coverage of some big events happening in the region this weekend, including Red Rocks live from the Rock Folk Festival. Folk music enthusiasts around the region are descending on Red Rock this weekend for the Live from the Rock Folk Festival, which kicked off on Friday. The long-running music festival features a concert stage as well as more intimate workshops while drawing in folk fans from far and wide. New to the festival this year are some outdoor excursions and special activities for kids. With 21 different acts and 72 individual performers, this year's artistic director Ellie Toast says the festival goers will be enjoying a variety of folk acts with a sprinkling of other genres as well.
It was so exciting for me to just think this person with this person or this group with this group on a workshop stage. I can just see some real magic happening there, and I'm crossing my fingers that that all comes to fruition. It's always impressive what some people can do with other people and how it just becomes this one incredible live performance you'll never see again.
The whole festival program is set up with themed sessions paying tribute to Canadian folk icon Gordon Lightfoot, who passed away in May. We'll have more coverage of this year's event on next week's show. Thunder Bay's summertime staple for more than 130 years is back. The 2023 Canadian Lakehead exhibition kicked off this week with exciting rides, great food, and entertaining carnival games. Celios Bellos was on site with more.
The weather was perfect for the first day of one of Thunder Bay's favorite summertime traditions.
You're right into the rides, the candy apple, all the different flavors of food.
The 2023 Canadian Lakehead exhibition kicked off on Wednesday with thousands flooding through the gates when they opened at noon. The event has run since 1890 and has become a summer favorite because of the great food, challenging games, and of course, the thrilling rides. The 5-day event usually sees around 55,000 people attend to take in all the exciting festivities. But with great pre-ticket sales, organizers believe that number could hit 75,000 this year. Fair Chair Basil Lishwood says that means so much, as putting on the event is no easy task.
Put a lot of time in all year planning this thing. I mean, there's still things to do and button up and all that stuff here, but it's looking good. The weather is pretty good today and hopefully to come.
For many in Thunder Bay and across the region, the CLE has become a lifelong summer tradition. How long have you been coming to the CLE?
Every year for probably all my life. I'm 52, so this is a great family event.
That includes Kelly Morisseau, who plans on making multiple trips to the fair this year and is hoping to experience as much as she can during the event.
It's Wednesday, it's the first day, so we're just trying out everything. We get concerts, we get something to listen to, and it's good for the kids, right?
And for those kids who may be only attending their first or second Canadian Lakehead exhibition, many were clearly already making memories they'll carry throughout their lives.
That spinny green one near the entrance, it looked like we were about to run into a trailer. A trailer was too close. Looked, I was about to yeah, boom.
Go on rides and yeah, just eat and stuff like that, yeah.
How's the food been so far?
Very good. I look forward because it's around the time as my birthday, and I like to try the rides and stuff because it's really fun.
The Canadian Lakehead exhibition will run every day until Sunday between noon and midnight, and like in years past, will wrap up with a stunning fireworks show. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
The popular event Feed the Giant is coming back again next month. The pre-party for the Wake the Giant Music Festival will be at a new location with a different vibe, as this year's Lakehead Brewing Company will play host.
This year, I'm going to describe it as more so of a kitchen party, live music, tasty food. Maybe there's going to be people hanging out in the kitchen. The patio is going to be rocking. There's going to be music out there as well. We're going to have the barbecue going. So from a culinary point of view, I think it's going to be extremely unique in the sense that, any party that I'm involved with, I would say is food forward or food centric.
Last year's Feed the Giant event was held at the Chantrell and raised nearly $14,000. This year's goal is $15,000, and the money will go towards the construction of a student residence for Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School. This year's Feed the Giant at Lakehead Brewing is set to go on September 14th. Organizer Hayden Johnston spoke about the importance of the event and why he continues to be involved with the Wake the Giant movement.
Aligned with the cause and the initiative, Wake the Giant, and how it promotes Indigenous inclusivity in the city. And I think that's huge. For me, I want the city to always continue to get better. It's still home for me, although I haven't lived there for 12 years or so. So the best way, or the most meaningful way in which I thought I could help was something to do with food and drink, because that's what I know.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right back here next week.